Alright guys, welcome to the first episode of Reseller Thoughts. This is pretty much a series where I kind of just voice my thoughts and document them. Um, Not too sure how much of y'all do that out there, but actually write down your thoughts on a journal or a business journal and seeing what you can do to maybe capitalize or do something else different on your business that may be hurting it and you're not aware of it. So from time to time, usually on a weekly basis, I like to take a step back from my business and really just assess it, seeing what I'm doing wrong and if there's any tweaks that may be needed. Okay, so it's Sunday morning, enjoying my coffee, still trying to get into the groove, still trying to wake up a little bit, but for this episode, this doesn't really have an agenda or any bullet points. So we're just kind of freestyling here. But so this weekend was 30% off at the Nike outlets, and I hit four of them. With the power of focus, I just strictly went with Nike. And for those of y'all who are watching the video, you can see behind me there's about 30 pairs, so nothing too crazy. Really sticking to my guns at least a minimum ROI of 50%. And I didn't find a whole lot, but it's good to practice discipline. But I guess the reason I bring that up is the importance of multiple quantity listings. As a solopreneur, I guess you can call it, just a person that's just doing everything and wanting to expand and might possibly have a day job on the side as well. I actually do. I do have a 9 to 5, but my side hustle, I do actually make a full-time living off of this as well. For the most part, this is just all going either back into the business or just getting myself in a spot where I can buy a place here in Austin. The real estate market is crazy here. The market's hot, so everything's starting to get expensive, and it's time I take the initiative and get a place. But back to the multiple quantity listings, I feel that from my perspective in my business, that's the way to do it in order to expand. Because when I went out to these 4 outlets looking for this inventory, I really wasn't finding one-offs that had some pretty good ROI to them. So what I like to do is do the 50% model and have at least a minimum of 10 or 5 and just have it snowball online. So for those of y'all that are not familiar with multiple quantity listings, it's when you have one item with multiple quantities behind it. So I have one shoe and I have 10 pairs of the same shoe, and the important thing about that is if you do your proper research, the sell-through rate, and buy it at a good price, that can snowball. So for example, you see a shoe and it has a sell-through rate of say 2 pairs a month, and then you buy that, and then you buy another 10 pairs of a different model and it has that same sell-through rate. Well, before you know, you're selling anywhere from 30 to 40 pairs of shoes, and it's kind of crazy. It can really snowball. But so that was the main focus, just multiple quantity listings, finding the best deals, and 50% ROI minimum. And so far the business is growing. Right now I'm still just under 300 pairs, and the initial goal was 400 to kind of replace my day job income, but I'm kind of sticking in there through the 9 to 5 to capitalize on multiple streams of income. And who knows, maybe if I double down and increase my the shoe business's revenue to the point where I'm double or tripling my salary, then it may be time to leave, because at that point I don't think I can handle the shipments, handle the sourcing, the listing, and that's important, being able to just to handle what you can do. But so yeah, that was the main focus. I did go to the new places I've never been, so Katy Mills and the Houston outlets. Katy Mills is just right outside Houston, and then the Houston Premium outlets. So I did go out there, venture out, and that's just kind of another important thing to go out there if you have the. Give me 1 second here. The the phone went off and it threw me off. I'm sorry, I got caught mid thought. Two, if you have multiple outlets in your area, you know, maybe some of them are a couple hours away, I do recommend going out there and just to see what there is. So, because I can tell you, if I didn't, I think I would have probably gotten only a third of this inventory that weekend or this past weekend. So yeah, we got to focus on expanding through multiple quantity listings and just really being consistent and understanding that, you know, I'm getting to a point where I have to minimum find at least 40, 50 pairs a week just to kind of maintain. And that's pretty tough. It gets pretty tough. So that's where the other factors come into play. Nike isn't the only brand out there that sells on eBay. So Adidas, Converse, Vans, Asics, I mean, pretty much there's a market almost for anything out there. And that kind of brings me to this other thought that you really gotta utilize everything you have around you, right? So I remember for a couple of months I made it my goal to successfully just source out of an outlet, out of every store that I could, that, you know, obviously have to deal with shoes. And for the most part, I was able to just sustain my store just off one outlet with multiple brands. So that's always something to consider, especially if you're a person that you may be in an area where you only have one outlet. And that's important. You know, you just got to really maximize what you have available to you in your area. So, and I think on the last note, before I wrap this up, because I'm just kind of rambling right now, I was listening to Gary V motivational video or podcast that he did, and he did bring up an interesting point where people have a funny way of, when something's successful that they do or something's working for them, they want to change it or try something else instead of doubling down. And I definitely fell victim to that early on in this reselling business. But obviously now you can see what works for me here, Nike obviously, as well as Adidas and Vans. My area, Converse, isn't too crazy, so I just, not that I stopped going in there, but I just don't frequent it as much, as well as Ross's, Burlington's, and Marshall's in the area. And yeah, I was just trying to do too much, you know. I was just trying to go everywhere, and this is after I realized the outlets work for me. You know, I've been fortunate enough in my area. That's what works for me. That's my groove. And I wasn't doubling down. I was instead trying to go to every Marshall's like every other day, every Ross. And yeah, I was burning myself out pretty quick, along with, you know, trying to be a fully functional employee at a 9-to-5. So it was taking a toll, and I had wished I saw that video earlier, because I was really running myself into the ground. Now, you know, I realized what I got to focus on, what I got to double down on, and yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where we're only sourcing once a week, once every 2 weeks, because I realize what works for me in my business, and I double down. And then when I go source, I source as hard as I possibly can, and it's working. It's expanding. You know, there's growth, and hopefully we'll get into a place where where I won't have to source as much, just because we're sourcing so hard on those days. But yeah, that's something to think about. I mean, if you guys are in an area where Ross works for you, for Burlington works for you, you double down on that. If you've never been to the outlets before, but you frequent these other stores, maybe step into the outlets, check it out, you know, and not just one time, more than once. You know, you never know. You just got to find your groove in the reselling business, and heck, maybe those stores aren't your thing. Maybe Hypebeast selling's for you. Maybe you have a connection at the local retailers, or you know how to mess with bots. So I mean, I have no idea how any of that stuff works. I'm aware of it, but it just doesn't interest me. So something to think about. But on that note, this is pretty much what I like to do. Just kind of document my thoughts, review them, and then maybe realize that what I said either didn't make sense, or it triggers something else that could possibly add to the business or tweak the business. But yeah, guys, this is the first episode. It is a podcast, but this is on YouTube as well. I think 2 weeks ago or a week ago, I did do a pilot episode. I think it's available on most podcast platforms, including Spotify. But this is the actual first YouTube video I'm doing on this. But yeah, feel free to let me know, or maybe drop down a line in the comments section. Keep the conversation going, and I'll see you guys next time.